So this is a timeline here, and here we have two people. Once they met and they were falling in love, and now they come to me. That's the present, yeah, and they have big problems. That's the past, the present, that's the future. There's a big difference. If I make the problem assessment, I also try to identify the problem within this time structure. So some problems are past related. One reason is that the couple came together and they might have different wishes and needs and expectations on the partnership, and maybe right from the start they started to get into power struggle, Cold War, whatsoever, and so it's a very old, and maybe through the years it grew bigger and bigger and bigger. Or they had a good time until here, and something happened here. That can be a structural change, like he lost his job or something, and then the problem, or maybe something kind of slumbering, which was always there, but it never really occurred because there was no reason for that. But some conditional changes were then triggering that, and then they realized, oh my God, that's not what I expected, or you are not acting the way I hoped. And then and usually, of course, it's crisis moments who show like who you really, have in front of you. So these couples, they passed a couple of years together, and then they come to me at a certain point where it's unbearable. Now here is always the question. So they have a bag of a bag of destruction. So that's the bag of destruction, and here is the question, like, how big is the bag? Because I work with them and I help them to understand it. I help them to understand each other. I help them to understand their own actions and behavioral patterns which led to this fight. And I help them to say, like, okay, this is the future. If you move on, we have to work on this and that to overcome the problem and to make the partnership move again. So even if they understand everything, and even if they might be actually quite a good compatible couple, if this bag is too big, it cannot be processed anymore. And sometimes, if this bag is too big, the love is gone when they come to me. And if the love is gone, it's like it's like a doctor. You cannot reanimate a corpse. A dead person is dead, and dead love is dead. You cannot. It's almost impossible to reanimate it. But if there is still a little flame, you might be able to bring it to a fire again. Sometimes it turns out that here the constellation was already dysfunctional conditions because they cannot really give each other what they really need. However, they were together for many years, and then I show them, like, consider. And by the way, I'm one of the bad couple counselors who tells his clients, like, consider to separate. Yeah, which I have done with you too.
Yeah.
And it was good, right?
Yeah. I started to work with you in a couple with a partner, and then I continued as an individual. So this is one of the way that couple counseling can be helpful. It's not only for couples, they can lead to your development.
Always has an impact on your personal growth.
Yeah, and also it's about like sometimes the hard truth is just very scary for you to be honest to yourself and to move forward, and hearing from other person sometimes it's
I think Katie is actually a real example of one of the couples, and her ex, one of the couples where I said, like, I think you're not good for each other. which was a hard thing to say, but I'm convinced it was the right thing to say, and I think they are much better off, both of them now, without each other. So by this, I break the golden rule of couple counselor: never ever say that. I don't believe in that. No, I'm the professional. I make the assessment, and of course, it's not in my power to split the couple, but I can show them what would be the consequences if we would move on together.
Yeah.
And sometimes the consequences are too big.
And it's not like you are making this decision for other people. You're just saying, and you just give them facts, and
Exactly.
the couples, they understand what's going on because they went through sessions with you.
And many couples are relieved when I tell them, because they cannot say the ugly words themselves. And they're happy that somebody comes and say, like, you know what, maybe you're not good for each other. Consider it. And then they're like, oh, I didn't have to say it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's still hard to accept the truth, and it takes time to process it. But for me, I guess the biggest thing was that I started the massive self-growth and just healing and understanding different patterns in my life and just analyzing. So in the future, it will for sure help me to find a better partner.
You're young, you have a whole life in front of you. I understand that when a couple is together for 20 years and then they come to this point, that's something else, because it means like, I invested so much in this, so much emotions and hopes and ideals which are kind of betrayed now, and I went through so much pain. Who is paying me this back? And then you come to a point where you realize, like, okay, maybe we should split up, and that's then not only encouraging, because you also think, like, how much time do I have left? Will I find another partner? And what about all this investment? And to finish that sentence. So I think if you were together with a couple for many years, and you come to realize that maybe it's better through counseling, maybe it's better that we are splitting and we move our own ways. It's very hard, because first of all, if you're already older, you think like, okay, maybe I don't have so much time left, and also the feeling like for so many years I was investing in this, I was waiting, I was hoping, so many emotions are there, I lost on this relationship, and I went through so much pain, and now I should give this all up. And it's very hard to let go because of that, and understandably. So if then you still decide to go through it and split, it is also connected with a period of grieving. Like if a person dies, which you like, you have to grieve. It's part of it. So grieving is okay.
It's not only after 20 years of relationship, also after half a year of relationship.
But can you imagine? But can you imagine how it is after 20 years?
Yeah. Must be really hard.
And many other things can come, like the judgment of the family, the environment, the friends and stuff, and being afraid of that, the fear of failing, admit like we failed, all these things. That's very hard. That's very hard. Yet we only have this one life. We have to make the best out of it. You shouldn't stay together with somebody out of stubbornness. That's actually quoted from Woody Allen. Who said, he said my parents were together for 50 years out of pure stubbornness. No, you shouldn't. A psychologist, what's his name, Eric Blumenthal, he had a nice quote. He said, "It's never too late, but it's always high time." And I think that's very true. It's never too late, but do it. Do it. If you don't do it, you waste more time. It's never too late to get happy in your life.
I know, but what about the fact that many psychologists, and with Esther Perel, that she's very famous, she talks that when people live for so many years together, they build like an institution together. There's so many social connections and...
But again, you know, to separate as a committed couple doesn't mean to separate for good. You can in best case, and I have seen many couples who could, you can remain a friendship. You can remain the same social circles. You can be good, creative, cooperative parents for your children. But you can give each other free for a new partner and yet remain friends. And I'm telling you, it's possible, and I have seen wonderful examples of that. It just, many people don't believe in it. This is one of the biggest factor hindering. So, to come back to this, now we kind of took a detour. I want to come back to this. When couples come to me because of a sudden conditional change in their life which brought them into a conflict, but before they were doing well, this is the most easy for me. With this I can work very quickly, and we can have very quickly good results because they do not have this bag of damage. And then the last category are couples. They did very well until they came to me, but their problem is future related because at a certain point in their life they realize we want to go in different directions. And usually very, very many times connected with family planning, having children or not having children. And it can be that they met when they were 25 and both of them were like, yeah, well, you know, I don't know, maybe I think I will never want to have children. And then with 35, one of them, usually the woman, but can also be the man, starts to change and feel the urge like, no, I really want children, and I see my friends with children and it's really appealing to me. And the other one says like, I told you I never want children. And then they come into this struggle. And unfortunately, when it comes to children, that's very unfortunate, but you cannot compromise about this part. You know, you cannot have a half child. It's not possible. So and unfortunately, if two partners have so different needs and wishes when it comes to children, sometimes separation is the only way how they can move on and establish happiness for themselves. Because either of them, if he would give in to the other one's need, might feel very, very strongly betrayed later. Especially the woman who is giving in to her husband's wish to never have children, and then she's maybe 35, and then with 45 she realized that she really missed something she really wanted for herself, and that will be very, very bitter on her and on the relationship, and maybe she will never forgive him that. But it can also be the other way around, you know, that they decide to have children and he feels betrayed because he really never wanted children. And by the way, I love children and I think it's a great thing, but I had clients who just never want to have children, and it's also absolutely okay. There are good reasons why some people do not want to have children. So everybody has to go for his own happiness and luck.
That's true.
But it can be another reason where they realize we go in different direction. For example, career-wise, or where do we live, in which country do we live, or how do we live, and such things. And then many times you can also find some form of compromise, which is good for both.
Here comes compromise.
No, here comes compromise again. I'm a big fan.
No. But it's true. We always can work.
I love compromise. It's great. It's just, you know, you need to be ready to do it. So that's that's in a nutshell, how we can assess couples problems.
In my opinion, I guess it's always a good idea to go to a counselor, because no matter what will happen, you will learn something, and it can take years and years for you to figure it out. But when you have a professional,
even if you have a good relationship and no bigger problems, it wouldn't hurt to go to counselor and say, like, give us some more insights about why are we together, what are our strengths, where are our maybe problematic sides. I had couples coming like that.
It's interesting. I would never thought about that.
Yeah. Some people like to go to counselors, and by the way, it can also be really funny. It's not all tears and tragedy.
They can learn something new for sure.
Yeah.